Is the autofocus on? It looks like, yeah, it's on. Meow. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I don't know if this is gonna be my first video or my second. We'll see. I'm gonna be doing a wrap up today. I read 7 books, which is more than both January and February. This is my biggest reading month so far. These are my moods: dark, emotional, a lot of fantasy. 4 fantasy books, bruh. My average rating, 3.89. I read 2,541 pages. Not too shabby. I have 2 of the books I read physically. The rest I either read... Patrick, come here. Patrick. The others I either listened to on audiobook, or I read digitally, or they are at my apartment, but trust that I did read them all. Let's go through chronologically what I read, kind of. The first book I read this month, I promise I'm not a hater. I can't promise that, but like, I promise that this was a really good reading month for me. I really liked all of the books that I read, except for the first one. Oh, I listened to this because I had heard like good things about it. It is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. Oh. He doesn't like it either. I gave it a 2.75. I have a lot of problems with it. And some of them are plot-based. Some of them are like how the story plays out. But that's spoilers. And I didn't hate it. And I'm going to read more of her books. I really want to read Lady Macbeth. Her writing is really good. Very atmospheric. You're really in the world. But your company is unfortunate. So the main character, Effie, she really wants to study literature, but they don't allow women to study literature. So she's studying architecture, and she gets selected for this program to go and reinvent her idol's mansion after he has passed away. She has like this academic rival, and they fall in love, and there's mystery and intrigue and blah 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 blah. My main problem with this book is that Effie was so ineffectual. Like, she did nothing. She did nothing. And I think it's important representation for victims of abuse to be sort of ineffectual. Like, I think girls who can't stand up for themselves shouldn't have to stand up for themselves. I'm just saying that it doesn't make a very interesting lead character. Things would happen to her and she'd just kind of be like, huh, what am I gonna do? God, I could not stand her or care about anything that was happening to her. I felt like there was some interesting concepts that were explored, where she's like, she has this childhood trauma. It causes her to like feel strangely about like these things that are happening around her. And I thought that was like a really interesting concept that was not fleshed out because Effie wasn't anything. I will be reading more of Ava Reed's books, but this one was just so bad. It was so bad. My final problem with it, because I had like 3. Ava Reed, to my knowledge, writes very gruesome, violent books, which is totally my thing. I love when it gets gruesome and violent. We'll see that later in the video. This was like supposed to be a change of pace for her. This was her first and only YA book. This book is so depressing. It deals with some heavy topics, which I am not opposed to. And I don't necessarily think YA should veer away from topics like this. You get such a massive age range. The topics in this book are so like explicit, and I was like, this can't be YA. That's why I was like looking it up. I was like, what makes a book YA? You know, easier to understand concepts, like simpler writing. And I was like, okay, like maybe, like I didn't think it was overly complex. And then one of them was like, no smut. There was smut. YA books are marketed from, let me check, 12 to 18. 12 to 18. I'm appalled. Ava Reed couldn't have been thinking, oh, I want a 12-year-old to read this when she wrote it. I don't think a lot of YA authors are thinking that. They need to be thinking more critically, because this book was not appropriate. I thought it was marketed poorly and inaccurately and dangerously, and overall 2.75. Now we're gonna jump ahead in time, because I did read a couple of books in between this one and the next one I'm talking about, but they tie together with my problem with YA, my channel, my rules. So the next book we're talking about is House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I give this one 4 stars. I did like it a lot. I thought it was really cute. It could have benefited from taking itself a little more seriously. I was just complaining that YA is like too much for young kids, but sometimes they can handle it a little bit. I had a conversation with the friend who recommended it to me because they were reading the second book. They were like, second one is definitely adult. I'm gonna take their word for it that that is not an inaccurate description. Although I have to say, probably in the face of A Study in Drowning, it would be like children's literature. This first one though, I looked it up on Goodreads. It says young adult. I think that's accurate. People from ages 12 to 18 would like this book. I think if it had taken itself a little bit more seriously, it would be fully YA. As it is, you take out some of the cursing, that's a middle grade fiction, and that's not a bad thing. I love middle grade fiction. Over the past year, I've read the first Warrior Cat series, half of the second series. I am a Warrior Cats diehard fan. That's not a bad thing for me. If A Study in Drowning is young adult, then House in the Cerulean Sea is children's literature. And I hate to say it, but I do feel that maybe it's homophobia, maybe because the romance is between two people of the same gender, that, oh, God forbid that we let children read this. 4 stars, could have taken itself a bit more seriously. Okay. This is one of the books that I actually have with me. Everything Sucks by Michael Sweater. My dad and I went to Silver Sprocket on Valencia Street in San Francisco. He got a lot of books. These were the 2 I took because I wanted to read them myself. And I read Everything Sucks first. It's small, not a lot going on in here. It was fun. I give it 3.5. It came with stickers. They're on my laptop. 3.5 stars. I will be reading more of these because I really like the characters, especially her. I love Calla. Cover up Stephen King. My father will never forgive me. I can't write so much. Next book I read, this was the first book I finished in the reading vlog, which is either going to be posted before this or after this. It's called Tituba. It plays with genre, so it's hard to describe, but I would describe it as a gothic fairy tale. It is a retelling of the Salem witch trials, casting Tituba, who was a real person, as a black woman from Barbados. Tituba in actuality was Native American, probably. Not a lot is known about this woman. Maurice Condé, who was a professor at UC Berkeley in the French department, wrote this book using her own history to sort of conceptualize the tragedy of the Salem witch trials and the horror of slavery. This book was described to me by my professor, because I read it for class, as being YA. We're back on that train. That is not actually what they said. They said that in comparison to the first book we read, These Are Mothers, it was YA-like. This book is not YA. And it doesn't pretend to be, unlike others. It is brutal from the first line. Tragedy after gruesome tragedy for this woman. But it is also incredibly funny and witty and tender. It was a really good book. I rated it 4.25. I would absolutely recommend this book. I just have no idea how to because there's so much going on in it. It is weird when you first get into it and you're like, why are there so many exclamation points? But Tituba is so endearing as a character and her journey is so beautiful. It's really good. It was really good. You should read it. Next book I read, I also have with me. This will be the last book that I have with me. And it is Chromatic Fantasy by H.A. Look at how beautiful it is. Oh, that's not appropriate. But like, beautiful. When we went into the comic book shop, my dad asked for recommendations because, I don't know, he's a sucker. The person who was working in Valencia at the gay comic book shop was like, I know what you would like. 50-year-old straight white man. Trans Mask Erotica. He hasn't read it yet. I loved it. I thought it was great. I gave this book 4.75. It was so beautiful as a story. There were things in this where it kind of didn't have any impact on the overall plot, so I was like, I can't give this 5 stars. It's about this trans man and he lives in a nunnery with the help of a demon, escapes and like, makes this deal with the devil that he can never die as long as like he is constantly in cahoots with the devil. On his journeys, he meets Casper, who is like another trans man who is just like a silly guy. And he's going around, he's robbing people, and they just have a blast together. So it's sort of like a slice of life romance book, paired with this really tender story about what it's like to come of age in sort of a dangerous position and realizing that your first taste of freedom doesn't have to be your only taste of freedom. I loved the two main characters and that they were just like having fun. And it was just most of the time fun and at the end really poignant and hard-hitting. I hope that there's like a sequel or something that continues the story and we get to see more of these characters and a little bit of the stuff that I felt wasn't really tied in. I would love to see more. Next was House on the Cerulean Sea, but we already talked about that. Penultimate book. Like I said, this was like a great reading month for me. I listened to Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. Pretty Girls is about two sisters whose older sister 20 years ago disappeared without a trace. One of the sisters' husbands has been murdered and they're somehow connected and it's a whole thing. I gave it 5 stars. Do I want to stick with that? Do I want to like fully commit myself? I don't know. I feel like I would bump it down to a 4.75. The criticisms for this book are fair. It is gruesome, it is graphic, it is violent. I do not think it's a thriller. I think it's more of a horror book, which is totally up my alley. I love horror literature. I am always looking for something that will make me gasp and be so shocked and horrified by what I'm seeing. This book did that for me. Like, it was horrifying. People say it's gratuitous, and I can't disagree, but it does not take every chance to show gruesome horror. It really pinpoints the moments where it's going to be most effective and goes all out in them. Jesus Christ. But I really loved it. And I think there was a poignant story that it had to tell. Like, we'll talk about the end, and the end is really beautiful. And it's just laced with this undercurrent of grief. And I really enjoyed this book. It was 20 hours long, the audiobook, and I listened to it in 3 days. I genuinely would just sit down and play my little mobile games and listen to this book. It's getting a 4.75 for me. It could have been a bit more shocking in terms of plot twists. Read at your own discretion. Sorry, I took a break. I wanted lemon pastry. The dog also wants lemon pastry. Okay, final book. For my birthday, my parents were like, what do you want? I want a Kindle. So, beautiful, beautiful, my angel, my darling. When you first get the Kindle, apparently you can get a 3 months free for Kindle Unlimited. I did think Kindle Unlimited was just free. That's my bad. I got 3 months free, and one of the top books is Fourth Wing, and I was intrigued. I am not really a romance reader, not really a fantasy reader, although I guess I read majority fantasy books this month. But I was like, I have to see what all the hype is about. It's free, so I picked it up. My mother had apparently read it. My grandma has read it. Like, everyone and their mother has read this book. Fourth Wing, if you don't know, if you are like me a week ago and you haven't read this, it's about this girl named Violet. Her whole life she's been preparing to be an academic, and then her mom at the last minute is like, no, you gotta ride dragons. And she's like, uh-oh, I am disabled. It's super dangerous. You gotta learn to ride that dragon or you're gonna die. I held off on reading this for a long time because I am on my intellectual high horse. I was like, I am better than popular romantasy. I'm not. I had a blast. The description of the book does not describe her as suffering from this disability, which I think is done really well. The descriptions are so physical. Like, I was horrified when I was reading about like her limbs dislocating. It felt very real. She didn't feel weak, but in the description for the book, it's like, Violet Sorrengill, weak little girl, fragile. And I was like, I will not read about this girl who's just so tiny and she like is just small and she's not like other girls. Violet does not read like not as other girls. She reads as cool and strong. And I really wish that the summary included like, and people say she can't do it because she's disabled. Not because she's like weak and like just a little girl, because that's what it reads as in the description and not at all what it reads as in the book. Overall, I really liked it. The dragons, I was like, God, I need to write a dragon. Parts I didn't like, Dane. I wanted Dane to die the whole way through. Also, some of it's a little heavy-handed. Like, all the lore is like very much laid out for you. Like, she literally has a trait where her way of coping with anxiety is just describing world building. And that was fun to me. Was it stupid? Sure. I was into it. I give it 3 stars. I thought it was fun. And God forbid a girl has fun. Those were all the books I read in March. I hope you liked it. I hope you come back, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you when I see you. Meow.